Welcome back. In this video, we are going to look at the difference between synchronous and asynchronous behavior in JavaScript. So to understand this, we are going to run some codes. Okay. So to give a simple explanation or a straight difference between synchronous behavior and asynchronous behavior is that in synchronous behavior, tasks are completed one at a time. What do I mean? So for one task to for JavaScript to execute the next task, it makes sure that the first task was completed successfully. So for instance, let's say we have this code. So let's say we have let's say we are consoling 3 tasks. So let me have we have task 1 here. I'm just going to duplicate this one to have 3 tasks. Okay. So if we have these 3 tasks here, in JavaScript, JavaScript by default is synchronous. That means it is going to execute this task 1 or is going to execute this line of code. When this line of code is completed, it will execute the second one and then it will execute the third one. And this behavior where one task is completed before moving on to the next one is what we call synchronous behavior. And by default, JavaScript is synchronous. Okay, so if I just go here and I go live, okay, so if I go live, you will see that in here, if we check the console, we have 3 tasks: task 1, task 2, and task 3. So you can see they were executed in line. Task 1 was done, task 2 followed, and then task 3. So this behavior is what you call synchronous. Now, the problem with this behavior is that if this task took a lot of time, the program will freeze. Okay? You imagine if this task here takes about 1 minute to get completed. That means that task 3 has to wait, or the application has to wait for 1 minute as they are waiting for this task 2 to be completed. Now, this gives a bad experience. Most especially, let's say you are fetching data from an API and that task is taking more time, and then the application is going to be non-responsive or it will freeze out and the user will get a bad experience. Now, with this problem, JavaScript handles it using a synchronous behavior. So a synchronous behavior is where tasks are completed independently. What do I mean? For instance, if task 1 is taking more time, they will move on to task 2. If task 2 is taking more time, they will move on to task 3. Okay, so that behavior whereby each task is done concurrently or is done independently is what we call asynchronous. So how does JavaScript handle asynchronous? So in asynchronous, we can use what you call callback functions. So what is a callback function? So what we do is that it will go on this task 1. So if task 1 is not consuming time, it will be done. Then it reaches on task like this task 2. So if task 2 is taking more time, so what it will do is that it will create a callback function, or it will create a function and then it assigns it to this task and says if this task is completed, then run this function. Meanwhile, it will move on to task 3 and move on with the code. So there will be no blocking in the application, and this will improve the overall user experience in the app. So to demonstrate this, we are going to use the same thing here. So we have 3 tasks. Okay, I can just come here and paste these 3 tasks. But then let's say this task 2 takes 2 seconds for it to happen. So let me just come here, and we are going to use set timeout function. Okay, set timeout function, and this timeout function is a self. You can see it is a self-running function. It will run itself, and it takes in 2 things. It takes in a callback function, okay, and then it also takes in the time that it is going to take to run this function. And the time it takes here, it is in millisecond, and 1 millisecond, so one second is equal to 1,000 milliseconds. Okay, this is 1. So 1 second takes in 1,000 milliseconds. So this function here, we can run it as a callback function, and let's write an arrow function here. Okay, let's just say console.log, and here we are going to say task 2. Okay, so what this one means, as I've said, for the asynchronous behavior, it assigns a callback function, okay, to the task, and says when this task is completed, then you can run this function. Meanwhile, it will continue running the code, and then it will leave this one alone. And that behavior whereby each task is done independently and concurrently is what you call asynchronous behavior. So if I first go and comment this code here, and we go here, you can see we have now the tasks in this order. We have task 1, task 3, and then task 2. That means this one, which took 2 seconds, they did not wait for it. They did task 1, they went task 2, it was taking more time, they left it, they went task 3, and then later on they did this one later. So this behavior is what we call synchronous and non-synchronous behavior. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.